my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer LB4310C-350-603 single-acting spring hinge, full mortise, contract grade, lube bearing, steel base, zinc plated spring hinge. So let's dissect all that. LB stands for lube bearing. It's a maintenance-free construction of bearing in Bommer spring hinges. 4310C stands for the fact that this is a single-acting spring hinge, 130 thousandths thick leaf, template patterned on the screw holes, square corner. The -350 means that this hinge is 3.5 inches tall and 3.5 inches wide, and the 603 means that it is zinc plated. So it's a steel base hinge, okay, but it has a zinc plating on it for really good corrosion resistance. This would be something that you could expect to hold up fairly well in an exterior application. It is a full mortise hinge, as you can see from the swag on the hinge leaves, meaning that when the door is closed, you know, the hinge leaves are mortised flush to the edge of the door and to the frame. Okay. A spring hinge like this is very commonly going to be used on 1 3/8 doors. A zinc plating, you know, somebody could order it for the look of zinc, but you could also see this on an exterior door. It is a self-closing hinge, spring hinge, and can be mixed and matched with a 3.5 inch commercial grade hinge because the axis of pivoting would be compatible. In the situation where you would have one spring hinge and then one standard hinge, or two spring hinges and a standard hinge, whatever the case might be. There is included with this, it'll most likely come in a box with the instructions on the back on setting the tension, but if they're not included, there's a link below this video to the instructions. Okay, with this you're going to get a tension rod, which is just a piece of black steel, and then you'll also get a tension pin, that little piece of silver that you see there. So what happens to set the tension, let's go over that now. This is the tension collar with the holes in it, and that goes up. You can use this for a door that's either left hand or right hand. Regardless, tension collar is up. Insert the tension rod into one of those pins and turn it clockwise. And as you do that, you reveal additional holes. And it's into one of those new holes that you would insert the tension pin. That's what sets the tension. Now, regarding how many spring hinges you should use, Bommer has a guideline for that. Up to doors 3 foot by 7 foot would be a maximum size. If you have 70-pound doors, they recommend 2 spring hinges and 1 regular hinge. If you've got a 90-pound door, 3 spring hinges. And of course, if you've got a door that's about half of that, possibly 1 spring hinge. However, in my experience of using spring hinges and installing them and maintaining them and adjusting them, every time that you've got more spring hinges than a guide would recommend, you have greater chances of success. Meaning, as the door gets open, you've got all that stored energy in the spring. Well, it's real effective at getting the door started and moving through the closing cycle, but at the very last few degrees, there's almost no energy left in that spring, and you still have to overcome all of the loss of energy in the closing cycle, but also overcome the resistance of the latch bolt hitting the face of the strike. I have found when I've got more spring hinges, there's enough oomph or enough torque, like a tugboat. Doesn't go very fast, but pulls really hard, and that's the analogy I use when it comes to spring hinges. Exterior doors are difficult to regulate when you're underpowered in terms of quantity of spring hinges. Those doors always need to latch. It's an exterior door. Sometimes with 1 or 2 spring hinges, when you need 2 or 3, you've got to really set the tension high in the spring to get the door moving fast enough just to get to the latching part. And sometimes it's so fast that it slams, or it slams and bounces open, or it doesn't work with predictability. And if you're a landlord, with tenants and they just want their doors closed, you know, that's a point of frustration as well for everybody involved. So I'm always a fan of more spring hinges than less. They're not that tragically expensive at all. There is a link to the template below this video as well, showing everything important dimensionally about it. We won't go over all the details, but it'll show where the screws are located. There's also a link to certification and hinge selection guide, which is just a bunch of, you know, technical speak regarding the hinge. If you have an 1 3/8 door, maybe even a 4-inch, you know, this very likely could work for you if you needed it to be contract grade in terms of thickness, and then template pattern on the screw holes. Bommer has this available in several different finishes and several different sizes as well, and other variants given a specific door manufacturer's product. They make them to match up with the template pattern of, I think, every imaginable door manufacturer that's out there. Last thing I'd like to point out to you would be Bommer's logo on the hinge. You can see right there, made in USA, it says right above it. That's a fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I to represent them. If you have any questions on the Bommer LB4310C-603, pardon me, LB4310C-350-603, single acting spring hinge and a zinc plate, or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.